Jonathan went to David and helped him find strength in God. And it's this picture of relationship between Jonathan and David. And this is like the classic go-to. You're talking about friendships. It's like you go to David and Jonathan, and you kind of teach on some of these principles. And here you see an example of Jonathan coming to support David. And, to give you a little backstory to that, you read earlier in the chapter, David has been anointed as the new king of Israel. Currently, Saul's the king. Does not like that. He's trying to kill David. That's the short version. David is running for his life, and he finds out that the enemy, the Philistines, who are Israel's enemy, right, are attacking a city. And David goes, Lord, should I go and save this little city from the Philistines? And his guys go, no, you're not going to do that. We already got Saul chasing us. But David goes to the Lord, and God says, yes, go and save them. David checks in again, just to make sure. You want me to go? Lord's like, yes, go. So David goes, and he has this great victory, takes all their livestock, and just wipes out the Philistines in this battle. Saul finds out that David's there, and he goes, oh, great, he's trapped. I'm going to go get the guy I'm trying to pursue. And so David's like, oh, no, here comes Saul. Lord, what do I do? Will these people turn me over that I just saved? And God's like, yes, they will. David's like, really? Are you sure? And God, yes, they will. You should run. So David escapes, and Saul couldn't find him. And it's so interesting because David is clearly hearing from the Lord, experiencing victory, and yet he needs a friend to come alongside him and strengthen him in the Lord. It's like, it doesn't matter. We could be going through great victories. We can be going through the worst of times. We need encouragement from people. We need friends who will come alongside and lift us up and build us up, especially when it's difficult. That's what I was seeing Thursday night. And if we just camp here for a second and think about how do we encourage people. I want to speak on this a little bit because how do we come alongside? How do we encourage people? And kind of the first way I mentioned already is we show up. We show up. Something is better than nothing. Even if it's awkward, even if it's uncomfortable, even if you don't know how to cook well, right? The fact that you did something will speak volumes to the person. And what all too often happens is this is a stumbling block because we don't know what to say. We don't know what to do. What do I say in this situation? What do I do here? And as a result, we end up doing nothing. Nothing is the worst way to encourage somebody. Something is always better than nothing. We read in 1 Thessalonians in 5:11, and we're actually instructed and commanded, you should encourage one another. Not an option. This is what I want you to do. Something is better than nothing. Second way to encourage people, and I mentioned this already, was that advice I got on my first hospital visit with scripture and with prayer. You don't have the answer, but Jesus does. So we write them a card. We send them a verse. We gather our friends together and we begin praying together for them, with them, without them, but we're still praying for them. And when I read James chapter 2, it talks about doubt. And there's a lot of doubt that creeps in moments like that. And it says, if you have doubt, you're like a wave of the sea blown and tossed by the wind, right? And it's like, no, that's not the type of faith we need in these moments. We need our friends to come alongside us and go, you got doubt, I've got faith. And I'm going to stand next to you, and I'm going to speak faith, and I'm going to pray faith over you and your family because you can't right now. So that's what we do, scripture and prayer. Third thing is being seen and heard. Being seen and heard. Another way to say this is empathy. It's like, you can't fully understand what somebody is going through, but if you know the person and you can begin to put yourself in their shoes, you can begin to articulate and you go, yeah, I know I'm not you, but I feel heard. And that is such a refreshing feeling. You know, it wasn't too long ago that I lost my voice. For 30 days, I didn't have a voice. It was terrible. And when you don't have a voice, you feel alone, right? You feel alone. And in hard times like that, oftentimes people feel alone. And I remember one of those moments when I was really feeling alone is I had joined a hockey league next door, the Snow King, on Sunday nights, still in it, and I think it's kind of fun, but also more importantly, because my friend Nick played, and it's like, Nick's cool, so I want to go hang out with Nick, and hockey's like the bonus. And if you've played sports with me, I think it's really fun to like trash talk a little bit. Like just kind of like get them going a little bit. Like I want the other person who I'm playing against to play a little harder because they're playing against me because they want to beat me because I've been talking the whole time. And it's probably one of my favorite parts of athletics is the trash talking. I think I build friends that way. So, and then the other part I really like about hockey is the scrimmage, right? Forget all the skating stuff. I can skate. I can't stop, but I can skate. And so I like getting out there and like running into people. You know, if it's Nick, it's on purpose, but other people, it's just like, you know, sorry. And so those are my two favorite things. It's like, and that's where the title of the sermon came from. It was trash talking and scrimmage, right? That's what I love to do. And it just so happened on this particular night, I had no voice. There was no trash talking. We finished playing and we're, in the locker room and it continues into the locker room. Nothing, right? There's no voice. The coach that night also had done so many drills and skating drills and things like that we ran out of time to do scrimmage. And so I was a little frustrated. I was like, stupid hockey, We get in the car, and this is what Nick says. He goes, that must have been frustrating for you, Kevin. You couldn't trash talk, and we didn't scrimmage. I was like, yes, that was fun. Thank you for saying that. It's like, it just spoke volumes to me. I was like, you get me. Like, you know me, you know what I love. The average person wouldn't know that, but you knew that, and you spoke it out, and man, I feel so seen. I actually feel so loved right now. And Nick's like, probably not even thinking twice about it, but I was like, this is why I like you so much, But that's empathy. You're able to kind of put into words like, hey, I see you. I see your hurt. I see your pain. I see where you're at. And the fourth way to encourage people, this is kind of a bonus way, but if you can, personalize your encouragement. Personalize it. Ephesians 2:10 says, we are God's masterpiece. No one person is alike. We are all an original, made by God. And so if you can begin to appreciate some of those differences in how you encourage people. When I had surgery on my throat, we had some buddies put together a DoorDash gift card for me. Awesome. I ordered Jamba Juice to my front door multiple times a day. That's what I needed. They got me. Not a big flower guy. Got a bouquet of flowers from Church on the Ridge. I remember talking to Charlie, our senior pastor. I go, I got all this encouragement. I was like, but I got flowers from the church. And Charlie goes, well, all right, who's in charge of that ministry? I was like, oh, I am. I was like, how ironic that the ministry that I oversee sent me. I was like, okay, there's some work that could be done. Like, we're always growing, right? We're always getting better. Like, there's always room for improvement. And so it's like you're learning and you're getting better. But if you can, and you know the person, like, make it personal. I asked Tristan this morning what his favorite candy was. He said nerds. Tristan is Kurt's boy, so tuck that away if you're in the grocery store and you want to shower him with nerds. So Thursday night, people showed up. Kurt had great friends. Kurt was a great friend. One of our goals this year as a church is to see 75% of our adults connected with, have at least 7 friends, right? 75% of the adults have at least 7 friends here. It seemed like Kurt had 700 friends. I mean, they just kept coming. And he was an encourager. He took the time to invest into people. And if you have not taken the time yet to start building those connections with people, maybe today's the day to go, hey, I need to reorient where I'm spending some of my time. Faith-filled people are important to have in your life. So then Friday comes. And Kurt is transferred from Swedish to Cherry Hill in Seattle. And the prognosis is not great. And because I'm called clergy, I'm a pastor, right? They call me clergy at the hospital. I'm allowed into rooms that most people aren't allowed into, which is a total gift, and I take advantage of it because I was able to be in that room with the family in Seattle there. And I'm sitting in this conference room, and it's just outside the room that Kurt's in. And I remember sitting with, some of the family was there, but I remember Tristan and Bella, the 2 14-year-olds were there, and the kids were taking time to go spend one-on-one time with their dad and say whatever they wanted to say. And I had this realization that I've been here before. And all of a sudden it hit me that, when I was in 9th grade, and I go, how old are you guys? They're like 14. I'm like, what grade is that? And they're like, 9th grade. I was like, yeah. When I was in 9th grade, all 4 of my grandparents died within a year. And I sat in hospital rooms, and I sat in those conference rooms. And I remember it was rough, and it does not compare to losing a dad or a husband, but it was still rough for me. And I remember asking big questions, big faith questions, like, does God even exist? How can he allow this to happen? And I almost felt like I was talking out of both sides of my mouth. On one side, I was angry and I was frustrated and I wanted to strike out at something. But then on the other side, I desperately wanted to feel and experience the closeness of God. And it was weird to have both feelings at the same time. And it was the first time that I had an authentic prayer with God. I got on my knees. I was alone. I was crying. I just shared. I said, God, here's how I'm really feeling. And he started sharing. God, do you even exist? Are you even there? What's going on? It was also the first time I ever experienced the grace of God. In that moment, I could experience just a little bit of his closeness, and a little bit is all I needed. And I went, oh, you are real. And so we have these moments, and they're defining moments. They can be. For me, I look back, and this is over 20 years ago, I go, wow, in that moment, because I experienced just a little bit of who God was, and I wanted more of that because I couldn't go back to the way I was living. I was like, God, I want more of this. I decided to start making, it's easy to reflect back and look. At the moment, I could not articulate what was happening, but here today, I can look back and go, oh, that's what happened. I started making decisions that leaned me closer to God, just a little bit. And you do that over the number of years, and you go, wow, you see the faith journey that God brings you on. It was this terrible loss. And you read in Isaiah 61 that God can even take ashes and do something beautiful with it. We prayed for Kurt to live. He didn't. And now I'm looking to see what God's going to do with this. For me, it was instrumental to have that defining moment, to be where I am today, to have the faith that I have today. It became real. God's big enough to handle our authentic prayers. If you've never tried it, that's where you start. We don't have time to play games or just go through the motions of church. That's not why we're here. It's like, no, if God is real, prove it. I want to experience you. I want a real relationship with you. That was my prayer. And then see what God does. Because God still had a plan.